It's commonplace to hear people say that the education standards in Nigeria has fallen, especially when compared to the years just after the country's independence. But giving this a deeper thought, can one say this observation is really true?
The education system in Nigeria has evolved, I would put it that way. Um, it's very easy for us to think about the older generation to think that their days were the better days. But we have to also recognize that the educational systems do evolve according to the challenges of the day, according to the needs of the day. Has the standard fallen? Of course, there are different ways, different aspects of the standard of education that has fallen, but um, it's not necessarily unique to Nigeria as a country. It's a global problem. So if I answering that question, I would say the Nigerian education system has evolved. It has become more technical. It has become more scientific, just like the way education is evolving around the world. But the need for critical thinking, the need for literary skills, um, is depreciated quite a bit, just like it's happening also every other place. Because I think partly because of the overemphasis on science and technology.
This observation is also supported by the Assistant Secretary of Bureau for African Affairs in the United States Department of State, Ambassador Thomas-Greenfield, who says that her interaction with products of the Nigerian education system shows a huge difference which could be attributed to various factors. She proposes possible solutions.
Governments need to invest in education. If governments don't, it's a responsibility of the government. Governments need to take that responsibility very, very seriously. And if you're a private university, you're about making money, you as government probably won't contribute to helping you figure out how to divide the time between your academic responsibilities and your research responsibilities.
Mrs. Gloria Chuku is a Nigerian professor of African Studies in the University of Maryland, Baltimore College in the United States. The study of the African culture is given a place of priority in the course of study in American education system.
American education or university system emphasizes diversity and broad-based knowledge. And that broad-based knowledge includes the study of the peoples and cultures of the world. And so a majority, yes, in fact, as a matter of fact, majority of my students are American students. And of course, a good number of those students want to do some form of internship or international programs or study abroad in different parts of Africa. They believe that that will help to enrich their academic profile in the job market.
This is also the case in the University of Colorado. It is packaged in the study of musical instruments, singing, and dancing. Africans are employed to give cultural history and tales surrounding the different aspects of the instruments in focus. Interestingly, these are not students of African Studies Department. Jackson is an English literature major and chose African music as an elective. He says he's learning a lot from the class.
But I think African music and African way of life is really, it has a freedom of expression through music that I haven't experienced in my own culture. It's something that I've kind of sought out or felt with African music. There's a lot of freedom of expression.
Fredrick is studying to be an electrical engineer, but has also chosen African music as an elective. And for him, the lessons go beyond just the music.
I think it's probably a more accurate picture, a more realistic picture rather than of maybe your typical American view of them living in grass huts in the middle of nowhere. There are cities. I think I have a better appreciation of the geography and the culture and just how much variety there is in the African continent. Just for how large it is, people treated as kind of a homogenous culture, but there's just an immense amount of variety.
Yeah, just a lot about Africa, the community, the continent, the geography, the people, definitely like a more broad understanding of the culture.
Professor Chuku suggests that lack of the ingredients of studying culture could be a missing link in the much-needed improvement in the quality of the Nigerian education system.
When I was in Nigeria, in the Department of History, we struggled to make the authorities allow the study of history. But then the emphasis was on technology. But there's no way you can understand technology and apply it in a vacuum. Technology comes with culture. And if people don't know their history, I'm afraid they may not know where they're going or where they land in the future. So that's why American educational system, to me, is very important and is enviable. In fact, as a matter of fact, going back in the colonial era, many Africans, and especially Nigerians, who studied in the United States, men like Nnamdi Azikiwe, he saw something in the American educational system. And when he came back, he began to recruit Nigerians to go to the United States to study because of the broad nature of American educational system. And so that is an aspect that I think the Nigerian government has a role to play. We have to start to study about our culture first, then add the cultures of other peoples in different parts of the world. To me, the idea that history has been relegated to the background in various levels of Nigerian educational system is problematic and an issue of concern. We should emphasize history.
She, however, observes that the challenge of falling standard of education is not limited to Nigeria.
Standards are falling even in the United States because, again, emphasis is now on technological gadgets. Students are concerned with, I'm sure you might be aware that American higher educational system does allow students to work and study. So oftentimes we find students who have full-time job and yet are pursuing full-time education. You can do well in both. And so when you talk of the elementary school and high school, yeah, the technologies are there, the facilities are there compared to what we have in Nigeria. But again, how many times do we have parents come home and go through their students' or their children's homework because they had to work. And by the time they come back, they're tired. And again, American society is highly stratified. Where you live determines the quality of education you get. There are poor neighborhoods, and children from those neighborhoods are the worst because of lack of facilities. They are not prepared well compared to students from high-class neighborhood, predominantly white neighborhood. And you don't expect the same standard for these two classes of students. So that's one thing some people don't understand about American society. There are problems, but at the same time, individuals, especially immigrants, African immigrants are doing very well.